The rain had stopped, but the mud still clung to every shoe in the graveyard. Silas stood between two coffins. One held his mother, the other held his father. People kept touching his shoulder as they passed. Some whispered prayers, some whispered apologies. Most said nothing at all. What was there to say? The village pastor was speaking, something about God's plan, something about a better place. Silas did not hear a word of it, and even the grip of his elder brother Omondi on his left arm was useless. Silas kept staring at his mother's hands, folded neatly across her chest, the same hands that had packed food for him every time he returned to school, the same hands that had touched his face and told him to study hard, to make something of himself, to never forget who sent him. When the coffins were lowered, the first handful of soil struck the coffin lid. The sound went through him like a crack running through glass. Around him, the women began to wail louder, that deep, shaking cry that African women carry in their chests for moments exactly like this. Silas did not wail. He had nothing left to wail with. He lowered his head, and the tears came down like a stream that never stops. His hands hung at his sides. He did not wipe his face. He did not need to. The soil kept falling, handful by handful. By the time the grave was full, the sun had already started to dip behind the hills, and Silas was still standing there, staring at nothing, a man with no parents left in the world. After the people left, after the food was finished and the relatives drove back to wherever they had come from, Omondi found his brother still sitting by the grave, long after dark, just the two of them now, and a sky full of stars that did not care what had happened that day. He sat down beside him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Silas, "Omondi, I am scared." Omondi did not answer immediately. He picked up a small stone from the ground and turned it in his fingers. "Of what?" "Everything. I was supposed to register next month, and now—" He stopped, shook his head. "Mama is in the ground today, and already I am thinking about hostel fees. What kind of son am I?" "You are my brother," Omondi said quietly. "That is what kind." Silas put his face in his hands. "I don't know what to do." Omondi put his hand on his back, the way their father used to. "I do," he said. Silas looked up. "You are going back to that university." "Omondi, let me finish. Remember when Baba sold land for your first year? Remember what people in this village called him? A fool. And what did he tell you?" Silas wiped his face slowly. He said, "They call you a fool until the harvest comes." Omondi nodded. "Mama and Baba planted something in you. I will not let it die in this ground with them. You will finish that university, you will become an engineer, and when you are standing, you will not forget where you came from." Silas's eyes filled, finally, after a whole day of holding it back. "Whatever you do for me, Omondi, I will do for you always." Omondi nodded. Over their parents' grave, in the dark, the two brothers shook hands, like men signing something only God could see. Neither of them knew yet what that promise would cost, or who would be left holding it. Omondi came home that night and found Nafula still awake. He sat down across her and told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then, "My husband, I know we just lost Mama and Papa, but selling our only land for your brother's fees is not the right thing to do. He is my brother, Nafula. And these," she pointed toward the room where their children slept, "are your blood, your own children, sleeping under this same roof. He is top of his class. His own lecturer called him gifted. This boy will go far if someone just keeps him in school. And your son, Your daughter? Who keeps them? I do. I will always keep them. With what, Omondi? With what? She said, looking at the empty container of oil that had been empty for weeks. He looked at his wife. He understood her fear. He had the same fear. He just carried it differently. I made a promise, he said, at the grave, over my mother and my father. I will not break it. Nafula looked at him for a long time. Then she picked up the wooden spoon, turned back to the pot. Do what you want, she said quietly, but when this house goes hungry, remember I told you. Omondi sold the motorcycle fast. The old blue one he had bought second-hand from a man in the next village, the one that rattled on rough roads and had never once started on the first kick. It was not worth much, but it was something. Then he sold half the land. He took every job a strong back could find, fixing roofs after the long rains, clearing bush for the wealthier farmers, carrying loads at the market for men who did not even look at his face when they handed him coins. Some days he skipped his own food so the children would not notice anything missing from the pot. One evening, he came home and sat at the table, counting what he had earned that week, coin by coin, note by note, arranging it carefully like it was more than it was. Nafula walked in, watched him count, then sat down across from him. My husband, I have not been to church in a month. I have nothing to put on my feet. He looked at the money on the table, then looked at his wife. Give me a little more time. I have to send fees this week. Next month I will. And my painkillers, the ones I asked you 2 weeks ago? He was quiet for a moment. I cooked herbs this morning, the ones Mama used to make. Drink a glass before you sleep. You will be okay. Nafula looked at him. Something in her eyes closed. She simply stood up, walked to the door, and stepped into the slippers she had been wearing since the day of the burial, the only pair she had left. As she walked out into the yard, her face changed, and she murmured something to no one but herself. The night swallowed whatever it was. Omondi never stopped. He worked and he sent money always on time. Then this Thursday came. He was still in his work clothes when the phone rang. He almost didn't pick it. He was tired in the way only a man who has been carrying too much for too long gets tired. But he saw the name, Silas. My brother, Omondi. There was something in his voice, something bright. I am done. I have finished. My results came today. I passed first class. Omondi sat down slowly on the step outside his door. He could not speak for a moment. Brother, are you there? I am here. His voice came rough. I am here, my brother. Graduation is next month. You have to come, Omondi. You have to be there. None of this exists without you. I will be there. And Omondi, Silas's voice dropped, became serious. I know what you have sacrificed. I know what this cost you and Nafula and the children. I have not forgotten. The moment I get a job, everything changes for all of us. How is Tendo? How is Acheng? They are well, growing. Tell Tendo his uncle has not forgotten his promise. The best school in Nairobi, I said it and I mean it. When I am standing, that boy will have everything. Omondi looked out into the yard, at the small piece of land that remained, at Nafula's slippers drying by the door. Just come home well, my brother, he said quietly. The day Silas graduated, Omondi made the journey to Nairobi alone. No money for bus fare for the whole family, just him, in his one good shirt that Nafula had ironed that morning without being asked. He stood at the back of that hall and watched his brother cross the stage in a black gown. Silas's eyes searched the crowd until they found him, and something tightened in his chest. Because standing there, at the back, in that one good shirt, was a man who had grown thin. Not the thin of sickness, the thin of a man who has been giving from his own body for years.
When Silas reached him, he held him so tight Omondi could barely breathe. "I would not be here without you." "You are here because you worked," Omondi said. "No, I worked because someone gave me the ground to stand on." Omondi looked away. He never liked praise. It embarrassed him. "Go and become something," he said, wiping his eyes quickly before his brother could see. "That is payment enough for me." After the graduation, the graduates spilled out into the courtyard, gowns everywhere, cameras, families holding banners, the noise of people who had made it. Silas was looking for Omondi in the crowd when he heard a voice beside him. "First class." He turned. She was looking at the results board. Then she looked at him, a smile that knew exactly what it was doing. "Silas, first in the whole department. You are checking the board." "I always check the board." She put out her hand. "Mercy Kamau, I was 2 places behind you, and I have been 2 places behind you for 3 years, and you never once noticed." Silas shook her hand. "I noticed." She laughed. "You did not." He almost smiled. "Maybe not." She studied him for a moment. The one good shirt, the one shoes he polished until they looked almost new. She saw all of it, and she did not look away. "My father runs an oil company. He is looking for engineers, good ones, not connected ones, good ones." She reached into her bag and placed a card in his hand. "Call that number on Monday. Tell them Mercy sent you. The rest will depend on you." She walked away before he could answer. Silas looked down at the card in his hand, then looked up to find his brother still searching for him in the crowd. He walked toward his brother and said nothing about the card. Not yet. Silas did not delay. Monday morning, he was at that office before the receptionist had even opened the blinds. 30 minutes later, he walked back out. He stood on that pavement and did not move for a long time. The tears came first, then the smile, then his brother's name in his chest, then his mother, his father, both gone before they could see this day. All of it hitting him at once like a wave that does not ask permission. He just cried, and it felt good. He felt a tap on his shoulder. "Mercy!" "Silas, what is happening?" He turned to face her, eyes wet, smiling like a man who does not know whether to laugh or fall down. "I got the job." She covered her mouth, then she laughed, then without thinking, she stepped forward and embraced him right there on the pavement. He hugged her back, but when they pulled apart, he looked at her and did not know what to make of what he saw, because for 3 years, he had watched this same girl walk past struggling students like they were furniture, never a second glance, never a kind word, and now this smile, warm, genuine, directed at him. He did not understand it yet, but that smile began something neither of them planned.
Months later, Mercy was in white. Her father's guests filled the front rows. Omondi sat quietly at the back, in his one good shirt, ironed one more time. In those early years, the calls came often. Silas would step out of the office, away from Mercy's ears, and call his brother. "Omondi, how are the children? I am sending something this month, just small, for their needs." And money came, with a voice note that made Omondi play it 3 times before he believed it. "Brother, tell Tendo his uncle has not forgotten. When he is ready for secondary, I will personally take him to the best school in Nairobi. I promise you that." Tendo was 7 then. He kept that promise the way children keep promises adults make to them, completely, without doubt. At night, he would tell his sister Achieng, "When I am big, Uncle Silas is taking me to a big school in Nairobi. He said so himself." Achieng was 5. She believed everything her brother said. "Will I come too?" "You are a girl. They might not take girls." "I will pretend to be a boy." Tendo laughed. "You could never pretend to be a boy. You are too much of a girl." And those were the sounds that filled that small house, children who believed in tomorrow. Then one evening, Silas called from the sitting room without thinking. Mercy walked in mid-conversation. She stood in the doorway listening. When he hung up, she said nothing, just looked at him once and walked back out. But something had shifted. The next time he called Omondi, he went outside, stood by the gate in the dark, like a man doing something he should not be doing. The calls grew shorter, then fewer. 30 minutes became 10, 10 became 5, 5 became missed calls became silence. And there was one person to remind him of all he had sacrificed, his wife. Omondi, what shall we eat today? If we still had our land, there would be enough harvest to at least feed the children. He had no answer for that. The money slowed too. 2,000 became less. Less became, next month, things are tight. Then nothing at all. Omondi never asked for it back. He had not sold his land expecting repayment. But Tendo, growing now, still spoke of the big school in Nairobi the way other boys speak of football heroes. Baba, has uncle called? He is busy, my son. The city is busy. Nafula had stopped waiting for things to change. One evening, she sat outside long after the children had slept. Omondi found her there, staring at nothing. Come inside, it is late. She did not move. Omondi, I am tired. No, you do not know. I am tired in a way that sleep cannot fix. My children are hungry. I am hungry. And every shilling you made went to a man who has forgotten we exist. She stood up slowly. At least in my father's house, there is food on the table. Omondi opened his mouth. She walked inside before he could speak. That was the last time she said it out loud. 2 weeks later, Tendo fell sick.
It started as a fever, the kind every African mother has seen before, the kind you treat with a wet cloth on the forehead and a prayer before bed. It did not pass. 3 days later, Omondi carried his son to the village clinic on his back. The nurse looked at the boy and looked at Omondi and wrote a referral letter without saying much. District hospital. Tests, then more tests. Then a doctor who came and sat across from Omondi and removed his glasses before he spoke. That gesture alone was enough. People do not remove their glasses to deliver good news. Your son needs specialized treatment. There's a facility in Nairobi that can help him, but Mr. Omondi, he paused, the cost is not small. Omondi's mouth went dry. How much? The doctor told him. Omondi looked at the floor for a long time. Then he took out his phone and called his brother. It rang, nobody answered. He called again that evening and the next morning and the morning after that. On the 4th day, a message came. Short, but enough. Things are very tight right now. I am sorry. I will try when I can. Omondi read that message 3 times, went into the room where his son was sleeping, sat beside him, and said nothing. 3 days after that message,
Omondi came home to find the house quiet.
In a way that was different from normal quiet. He stood in the doorway. Something was missing. He could feel it before he could see it. He walked to the bedroom. Her side of the wardrobe was open, empty. Her shoes from the doorway where they always stood, even the burial slippers. A note on the table, short and final. He read it once, folded it slowly, then put it in his shirt pocket close to his chest. He stood there in that empty bedroom with a single tear, and for once he spoke the truth to himself. If only I had paid attention to her. If only I had bought her painkillers. If only I had cared even a little, my wife would still be here. But his brother's fees were always on time. He stood there for a long time. Then he heard a small sound from the children's room. He went in. Acheng was sitting on her brother's bed, holding Tendo's hand. She looked up at her father with eyes that had already understood more than a child her age should ever have to understand. "Baba, where is Mama?" Omondi sat down on the edge of the bed. He looked at his son, thin now, breathing slowly. He looked at his daughter. "Mama has gone to visit her people," he said. "She will be back." Achieng looked at him. She did not ask again. And that silence from a child who knew her father was not telling the truth was the heaviest thing in that room. Tendo died on a Tuesday morning, quietly, the way a candle goes out when there is nothing left to burn. Omondi was holding his hand when it happened. He felt it before he saw it. The small fingers that had always curled around his own since the day that boy was born just stopped. Achieng was standing in the doorway. She touched him and he was cold. She had refused to leave her brother's side for 3 days. Omondi had tried to send her to the neighbor's house. She would not go, so she was there when it happened. She saw her father's whole body fold forward over that bed. A big man, a man who had carried everything, folding like something inside him had simply stopped holding him up. The nurses came and did what nurses do. Omondi sat in that room long after they had finished, staring at the empty bed, at the small dent in the pillow where his son's head had been. Achieng came and sat beside him. For a long time, neither of them spoke.
Then she said quietly, "Baba." "Yes? Where is Tendo now?" Omondi looked at his daughter. This girl who had just lost her brother, who had already lost her mother. "He is with Kuku and Guka, his grandparents. They are taking care of him now." Achieng nodded slowly. "Will he be happy there?" "Yes," Omondi said. "He will be very happy." She was quiet for a moment. "Then I am happy for him." She said it so simply, so sincerely. Omondi turned away so she would not see his face. They buried Tendo in the same graveyard where his grandparents lay. A third mound now, smaller than the other two, beside them. The same pasta, the same handful of soil striking wood, the same sound that goes through a man like a crack running through glass. But this time, Omondi was not with his brother. He was not with his wife. No one to hold his hand except his daughter. He stood at that grave with Achieng's small hand in his and looked at the 3 mounds side by side. His mother, his father, his son. 3 people he had loved completely. 3 people he had not been able to save. He looked at his daughter beside him and swallowed the tears for her. His chest and his neck pained. If only he could cry for a moment, he would feel better. And something settled in him. His brother needed to see this. Not for money. Not anymore. That time had passed. He simply needed Silas to stand in this graveyard and look at what his silence had cost. To look at Achieng's face and understand what had happened while he was busy being tight and sorry and next month. That was all. He took his daughter's hand. "Achieng." "Yes, Baba." "We are going to Nairobi." She looked up at him. "To find Uncle Silas?" "Yes." She nodded, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. They went home and packed what little they had. 2 days' fare, barely enough. Achieng wore her one good dress, the same one from the burial, because it was the only clean one left. Achieng spent the whole journey to Nairobi looking through the bus window. She hardly spoke. Every time the bus passed a school, she looked a little longer than before. Tendo should have been sitting beside her, arguing over who got the window seat. They found the house the way Tendo used to describe it. Big gate, white walls, the one that opens by itself. Omondi stood in front of that gate with Achieng beside him, the dust of 2 days' travel still on their shoes, the road still written on their faces. He knocked. A house help opened it partway, looked at the dust on their shoes, looked at Achieng's dress, looked at Omondi's face, then went back inside without a word. They waited. The sun was not kind. Then the door of the house opened. Silas came out fast. For one moment,
Just one. Something crossed his face when he saw his brother. His foot moved, one step forward, his mouth opened. Omondi, Mercy hand found his arm. Just that, a small touch, barely anything to see. It was enough. She stepped forward, looked at the dust on their shoes the way the house help had looked, then looked past them at the street as if checking who might be watching. Her voice was flat, controlled. I have told you before, your family is not allowed here. Mercy, please, just let me. We have visitors coming this evening. There is no place here for people like this. Silas looked at his brother and his daughter, at everything he owed and had never paid. Omondi, I will call you. And he stepped back inside. The gate began to close. Slow, electric, the same gate Tendo used to describe like it was a wonder of the world. Uncle, Achieng's voice, small, cutting through everything like a needle through cloth. Uncle, the gate kept closing. My brother has died. The words hit the metal and fell into the empty street. The gate clicked shut. Omondi looked at that gate for a long time. Then he looked down at Achieng. She was still looking at the gate, waiting, the way children wait when they still believe adults will correct their mistakes. He squeezed her hand once. Come, he said quietly. And they walked. For the first time, he failed to control his tears before his daughter. They came rushing down like an endless river as they walked in the hot sun, the image of his buried son fresh in his mind. His son who believed in an uncle who lived behind a gate that opens by itself. Achieng said no word. She just looked up at her father and joined him. Father and daughter, walking the streets of Nairobi, crying together under a sun that did not care. My friend, life can be harsh, life can be unforgiving. Tell me in the comments, has someone ever sacrificed everything for you and you closed the gate on them? Or has someone closed the gate on you? Subscribe. Part 2 is coming.